What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got another discussion video, really looking a little bit more in depth at TRI-BRIGADE. This is the new archetype coming in Phantom Rage. It's really cool. It's based around pretty much Beast, Beast Warriors, and Wing Beast. That locks you into those three attributes, those three types. It pulls link monsters out of the extra deck, kind of generically, by the way. Any of those three types, you can actually kind of pull them out of the extra deck, those kind of link monsters, which allows you to delve into other archetypes as well. So what I'm going to be talking about today is some of the things that this archetype already has going for it in terms of like cards that are already out, stuff that's already going to be a huge help to this archetype, whether it has to be like an archetype it can combine with, or just like generic cards that just help with consistency, or just like other generic like links that like you may not have thought about right out the gate, but actually can be pulled out with this deck rather easily. So one of the first things I wanted to mention about with like as far as needing another like archetype to pair with is that this archetype is very new, so it's not, I don't think it's fully fleshed out. I think we can definitely expect to have a couple more cards come out here, so I don't think it's ready to be like a pure deck just yet. And so because of that, I think your best option for this deck is probably to play it as like a a double engine, this engine plus any other deck, and combine them together, kind of meet in the middle. That way you don't have to fully rely on this archetype, because it just like isn't ready yet. And that could be the future if we get like the right kind of support, enough support cards, that kind of thing. But we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I think it's best suited to combine with archetypes. So speaking of the ones that I think are most noteworthy, first and foremost, it has to be Zoodiac. I think like out the gate, my first impression is that Zoodiac has the best chance of being like the most, like, I don't know, the best fit, I guess, for this archetype. I think Zoodiac is just such little investment for such like a decent amount of like return on it. Like normal summon anything in this archetype and you at least get a Dryden for multiple turns. And then like hand traps plus Dryden can like carry you through a duel, honestly. So like that's like one thing. And I just think that's like the nicest thing in this deck. Just this archetype puts so many Beast Warriors into the graveyard for TRI-BRIGADEs to start banishing for their effects as well. So I think they pair very nicely, very nicely. So Zoodiacs are definitely on the top of my list for meshing with this archetype. And this has been pointed out, this has already been tested a little bit. It seems like the front runner for how this archetype will want to play in the most competitive way right out the gate. Next up, I have Firefish. Firefish are very interesting because a lot of link monsters, a lot of these other link monsters that might have worked with the TRI-BRIGADE stuff, have like effects that fire off on link summon. Well, the way that TRI-BRIGADEs pull these link monsters out of the extra deck doesn't actually count as a link summon, so those effects do not get to fire off. So stuff like Raid Raptor Y-Strix does not get that free special summon. Stuff like the Ancient Warrior Link 2 does not get that free search. Stuff like that. And I think there's one or two other ones as well. Oh, like the Gladiator Beast, Test Panther does not get its search either. So like stuff like that makes those a lot less like useful. But this guy just kind of has a main phase effect. So you just pull him out of the deck, then he just at least gets you the Buffalo on field, because he by himself sends the Buffalo. The Buffalo just resurrects itself for free, and now you're just sitting there like, okay, like we good. And if assuming you use Fractar to get him out, because that's what you're going to be doing a lot of the time, you would have 2 level 4s, so then you could, overlay into something like a rank 4. You haven't done anything other than lock yourself into Beast Warriors or Winged Beasts, so like, I don't know, you go Tiger King, do some plays there, and then try and extend from that point. So it's actually pretty cool. I think just Eagle really synergizes well with the TRI-BRIGADE archetype. I've seen some combo videos. I'm not sure. Here's the thing I'm questioning. I'm not sure, and this is one of the things that like gets weird with an archetype like this, is there were a ton of other archetypes I looked at when I went through the list of like Beast Warriors and Winged Beasts. You had stuff like For Hires and Glad Beasts, Simorgs, Raid Raptors, Blackwings, archetypes that are not that bad, and technically they have synergy with this archetype. But at some point you got to look at yourself and be like, am I making like, or do these actually work really well together, or am I just making a good For Hire deck, like For Hire's better with TRI-BRIGADE, but also making just like a really bad TRI-BRIGADE deck? You know what I mean? Like TRI-BRIGADE has so much potential. Are you really just like kind of lowering TRI-BRIGADE's worth by playing it in For Hires, like at least the ceiling, like not as good, very fragile engine, stuff like that? Or do like, are you actually maximizing what for hires can do? So this is one of those ones where I am kind of questioning on that, but honestly, it's hard not to. It's kind of hard to see all that synergy, how they work, if you can play through disruptions, all that stuff. It's kind of hard without doing the full testing, but I do think there is some potential here. You're already playing a 3 of Tenki, playing also stuff like Tensu, giving that extra normal summon can potentially allow you to play through disruption a little easier than in some of the other builds. But yeah, I think this is a decent like potential, or at least makes, I think, Firefish a little more interesting. Next up, I have Ancient Warriors. This is the newest one on this list. This is an all Beast Warrior archetype. Mainly likes to go second, so that is something interesting to note, that you are expecting to play through disruption when you play this deck. But I think there's like some interesting synergy here. So obviously, I believe that this combination allows for this deck to do a little bit better breaking through boards. I know Ancient Warriors are like an interesting like go second strategies, but I don't think they're like insane. Like, they don't play through a million disruptions, but they do have some cool like effects. They can kind of swarm the field, and they can just push in for a really big battle phase. So I think that's mainly what you're trying to like go for, but it's not, I don't know. I think the potential's there, and I think like the fact that they're already getting their new Link monster very, very soon, and like that already is going to like push the deck a little further, and then we'll follow it up with the Tri-Brigade stuff. Maybe this deck could be something, and maybe it actually could be a little bit better going first. Because of the Tri-Brigade stuff as well. Like, that's always something. When you play a going second deck, depending on your opponent and how cheeky they feel / their strategy, they may just say, you go first. Go ahead and make your Ancient Warrior board. And then you end on, like, a bounce, a banish, and, like, you know what I mean? And, like, a spell and trap negate. Because I think that is actually possible. Just like with the Ancient Warrior Tri-Brigade stuff. So it's actually not as bad as you think. Maybe that could be something spicy. I don't know. Again, it's kind of in the same realm of Firefish, as like it really is going to need some testing to really see how worth it is. Then we move to my last one that I actually think is legitimately interesting. There's other ones that are like here, like I said, like Raid Raptors, because Y-Strix doesn't get its effect. I really don't think it's like that worth in Raid Raptors. Maybe I'm off base there, but that's what I'm thinking. Simorg's kind of the same thing. There's not even really a great link. I guess you summon the Link 3, but like you can already do that generically. You don't even need to play the Simorg stuff to do that. Blackwing's kind of in the same realm as Raid Raptors, but almost worse, because some of the Raid Raptor cards just summon if the Raid Raptor's on field, but the Blackwings don't do that. So they're even a little bit different. They're kind of like for hires in that regard. And then there were some other things there, but this was the last one I wanted to throw in there. Mainly because of the future. I don't expect it to be amazing right out the gate, but we already know how powerful this deck can be, especially with, what's her name? Wolf? No. What was her name? What's the one that's banned? Oh my gosh. Lunalight. Tiger. There we go. Lunalight Tiger. Tiger is now banned. If at some point Konami said, okay, like, let's try Tiger at 1, I think this archetype immediately becomes very interesting. With 3 Tenki, with stuff like Serenade Dance and like Foolish Burial Goods, like you have so many ways to just like get access to like the 1 Tiger, even if it's only at 1, and that card is so abusable in this deck. You know what I mean? Just get like 3 Monster Reborns in 1 turn. Very, very crazy, and I think that allows it to work pretty nicely with the Tri-Brigade stuff. One thing I will say is Lunalights work a lot from Grave, and Tri-Brigades try to banish your stuff from Grave. So like there may be a little bit of like, you know, mesh, like I guess clashing there, but other than that, I really think this could be a cool arc. It's like a cool combination where like you're ending on the Link 4 plus maybe 1 or 2 other Link 4s that are actually pretty good, and then like I don't know, going from there. So I think it's like pretty cool. It has a lot of extenders in the deck, plus stuff like interactions with Kaleido Chick and sending for cost, which is really good. So yeah, I think like this is the last one that I would say is interesting, but mainly interesting for the future. I think without Tiger, it won't be that interesting. But at some point, if Tiger ever does come off, this will be an interesting thing to throw in there. And then we get to some of the other generic cards, not just archetypes, generic cards. Obviously, Tenki has to be the forefront of this. I mean, honestly, Tri-Brigade only has 1 Beast Warrior in its main deck at this point, and it's just Fractar. But honestly, Fractar's like the best one. Probably. I mean, a lot of people read him and thought he was like the worst one at first, but I think he's actually pretty dang good, because he like sends Naval grabs another Fractar, then you can normal summon Fractar and then banish those 2, and right there, like just off of 1 Fractar, you kind of set up to get at least a Link 3 on board and potentially more. So That's pretty cool. But Tenki just makes him like a 6 of. If you're playing Zoodiac, obviously you have access to any one of the Zoodiac cards. If you're playing Firefish, Sanctum Warriors, Lunalights, unfortunately, like, it doesn't seem like there was any great Beast or Wing Beast options to like pair just yet. Maybe there will be that I'm not seeing, but like to me, all of the ones that would like seemed the best so far are all like Beast Warrior ones. So like we'll have to see if anything pops up there. But yeah, this card's just so good, so versatile, so great consistency wise, and you get a little buff too. All right, and then for some links that I wanted to throw out there that are pretty interesting because of just the Tri-Brigades can just pull them out for free. I mean, like, it's really crazy. So first is obviously Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty. We've seen this before. This card is nasty. This card is abused in like infinite negate loops. You don't necessarily have to use it for that. I mean, you don't have to play both if you don't want to. Plus, this archetype locks you into Wing Beast, so like you may not be able to make the Union Carrier as easily. But just ending like Simorgh and going into an Apex Avian or into a Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds is a really strong way to like finish off a board, in my opinion. So that's honestly pretty nasty. And then you just get stuff like every turn. You get a free monster like every turn, and that's what I really like about it. So very cool. Also gives you some protection as well, which is nice. And then yeah, it's just very strong. So yeah, this could be like a nice like icing on the cake kind of way to like finish off a board if you had like extra extenders. But then we move to this guy. This guy's probably the most interesting one to me because I mentioned him before and how he does not get his search on summon, but you may not be summoning him for that. The other reason you might want to summon him is just the fact that he has a quick effect that just says send any card from your hand or field to the graveyard to just target and compulse any face-up card your opponent controls, which is actually like pretty good. I mean, like, imagine that situation where you got Fractar. Like I said before, you go like Fractar, send Naval, grab another Fractar. You can normal that Fractar, but maybe you had no other extenders in hand. It's all hand traps and all only cards that like kind of brick with the Fractar, right? At worst case scenario, you just banish those two and grab this guy. At least, at the bare minimum, you put a compulse on board. So Fractar at the bare minimum is a 1900 beater, a 1600 beater, and a compulse. Could be worse, and that's every turn. I mean, you could send something from hand, so maybe if you had an extra Naval in the hand, that's how you were clogging your hand. You send Naval during your opponent's turn, boom, get a search. And that could set you up for the following turn, right? So like, there's actually, this card's like pretty spicy. I think that I might try and find space for this. However, I play Tri-Brigade as just like a one-of in case it comes up in like limited resource situations. This card could be huge with that bounce. Boom, boom. Moving on, we have Fire fighting Daruma Doll. This card is also really cool. Also kind of slept on. I didn't really see anybody talking about this specifically, but it's pretty good spell and trap removal. He gains 100 attack for every Beast Warrior, and Wing Beast monster on the field, so that could actually stack up pretty quick, get him to like 2,000. It's actually pretty good. But his main effect is once per turn you can target a spell or trap on each field and destroy them. Why that's awesome is that we just went over it. You're probably playing 3 Tenki. Like, and 3 Tenki is a 1-card this. So you go Tenki for Fractar, Fractar ditch Naval, Naval add another Fractar, normal Fractar, banish those 2 from grave to get Daruma Doll, and now you pop the Tenki and an opponent spell or trap. Boom. Like, actually super quick, clean, pretty strong. Honestly, like, actually pretty good. There, and then he also does the float effect where if he's destroyed, if he destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target one of your Beast Warrior or Wing Beast monsters that is banished or in graveyard, add to hand. It's banished or graveyard, which in this archetype specifically is really nice because honestly, you may want to just leave the ones in graveyard where they are for future banishing. You want the ones that have already been banished back to your hand. Reload those. That's a free +1 at that point. Very, very nice. I think it's actually like a pretty slept on card. Could just be like a nice one-of to out certain back row, bait certain like cards, like whatever, and he's only like a 2 banish requirement, which is pretty nice. And the last card I want to note here is probably like a little more obscure one, may not really come up, but maybe it is a one-of depending on the build you're playing, is Frezvelg, the Desperate Doom Eagle. If you do not know about this card, it's a Link 3. Normally it takes wind monsters only, which doesn't see a lot of play because not a lot of people play wind decks. But he gains 2,400 attack while your opponent has no monsters in their graveyard. Okay, not going to happen all that often. Maybe. But his main effect is a quick effect that says during either player's turn, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and shuffle it into the deck. That could be something like a Golden Lord. That could be something like a Jet Synchron, right? That could be something like, you know what I mean? Just anything. And then if you banish enough stuff over the course of multiple turns and you've been stunning your opponent could have none engraved, and then he's a 4,800 beater. So he's actually pretty interesting. It just depends. Like, maybe it's a matchup type thing where, like, you could go into the Samorg link, but you also see that, like, I know I'm playing against Eldritch. How about I make the Doom Eagle, because that card actually puts pressure on them to not allow their Golden Lord to hit the graveyard, because then every turn you're just like hitting Golden Lords or baiting out like like Sanguines and White Destinies like super early before they would actually prefer to use them. So pretty dang cool though. I like this card a lot. I think it's slept on in a format with, like, if we went back and like Salamangreats, Orcust, even Strikers, just like hitting Rays out of grave is actually pretty good. Like, this card actually like thrives in formats like that. Right now it's okay, it's not amazing, but it could come up for sure as being like really, really good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a ton of other just like generic Beast Warriors and Wing Beasts like links that actually like really work with Tri-Brigades, but those are the archetypes and like the generic cards that I think work with archetype the most. I think this archetype is so cool, so interesting. It's one of the archetypes I am the most excited about going into Phantom Rage for sure. Really excited to like get testing with this deck and see what it can really do in person. So guys, let me know your thoughts down below. I know this discussion video got a little long, but I really, really, really like this archetype. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you think I missed an archetype that has a legitimate, like, you know what I mean, like synergy with this deck, and maybe I didn't give it as much credit as I should have and should have put it in here, definitely let me know down below. As well, if there are any other generic cards. Maybe there's a link I missed. Maybe there's other stuff that's just like Beast Warrior, Wing Beast support that like I'm missing. Definitely throw it down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this archetype as well. And that's going to do it for me here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I will see you in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.